Right before my birthday, I checked my credit card and realized it had been completely maxed out. 30 grand, just gone. When I confronted my dad, he lost it. Said the family needed the money more than I did. My mom? She actually laughed and told me I could celebrate alone. But I had other plans. I kept my voice steady and told them, then don't ever bother calling me again. That same night, without saying a word, I sat down at my laptop and shut down everything. Our joint mortgage, the loan for the truck, even her credit line. I just stared at the statement, my hands lightly shaking as I read the ridiculous total in bold black print. $29,763.84. Basically $30,000, completely drained. It wasn't missing. It had been taken. Stolen, really. And my birthday was only a week away. I'd been thinking about taking some time off work, maybe even finally getting on a plane to somewhere warm. I hadn't taken a proper vacation in years. But now, everything I had carefully saved was wiped out overnight. I grabbed my phone and called the bank immediately, praying this was some kind of weird fraud. Maybe a hacker. But the woman on the phone kindly explained that all the transactions were approved, with my own PIN and signature. Only thing was, I hadn't bought a damn thing. I started pacing around my small living room, heart racing, caught between anger and total disbelief. Then it hit me like a truck. Only two people could have done it. My parents. I didn't hesitate. I called them. Dad picked up after 2 rings, sounding way too casual. Hey, son. Everything okay? He asked, like nothing was wrong. I gritted my teeth. Dad, my credit card's maxed out. Nearly $30,000. You know anything about that? I asked. The silence that followed felt like it sucked all the air out of the room. Eventually he spoke, sounding all defensive now. The family needed the help. You'll be fine. You're doing well, right? You make good money. I felt the heat rise in my face. Wait, you actually used my credit card? He snapped back, raising his voice. It's not like that. You always act like your money is just yours. We're family, he went on. Sometimes you've got to make sacrifices. And then my mom chimed in from the background, laughing like it was all some comedy routine. You don't need a fancy trip for your birthday, she said. We had better use for that money. Celebrate by yourself this year, she added, still laughing. For a second, the room tilted. My breathing turned shallow, chest tight. I thought about all those years I busted my tail working 2 jobs through college. I saved every penny. I skipped trips, ignored the latest trends, said no to fun so I could build a future. And now this. I swallowed hard, kept my voice calm, and said the only thing that felt right. Then don't ever call me again. Before he could throw more guilt my way, I hung up. Later that night, while the city lights flickered outside my window, I opened every financial account they probably assumed I'd forgotten. The mortgage we'd co-signed? Canceled with a click. The truck loan I'd stupidly agreed to back for Dad? Shut down. Mom's personal credit line that somehow had my name attached? Gone. I didn't yell. Didn't send a message. I just did it, 1 click at a time. It wasn't about payback. It was about finally setting a boundary I should have set long ago. They wanted to live without my support? Well, here was their chance. Not because I hated them, but because helping them had nearly destroyed me. You're probably wondering how I got here, how a grown man with a solid career ended up drained dry by his own family. It didn't happen all at once. That's what made it so twisted. They played the long game. From the moment I landed my first real job in finance, entry level, fresh out of college, they saw my paycheck as theirs. We sacrificed everything for you, Dad would constantly remind me. You owe us, he'd say. You wouldn't even have that degree if it weren't for us. Mom would back him up. All we're asking for is a little help. You know, family helping family. At first, it was small. A couple hundred to help cover property taxes. A few thousand for my sister's dental emergency. Dad's truck broke down. Could I co-sign for a new one? Mom's credit card was maxed. Just for now, of course. I told myself it was okay. Temporary. They were my parents. They raised me. This is what good sons do, right? But temporary turned into every month. Eventually, Dad just assumed I'd cover the mortgage when they came up short. Mom stopped pretending she'd pay me back at all. My younger sister Madison, always the golden child, ditched her job completely so she could find herself and chase creative dreams. Meanwhile, I quietly took over her student loans just to keep her credit from tanking. "You're making six figures," Mom once said, waving it off like it was no big deal. "It's not like we're asking for much." Yeah, I made six figures on paper. But by the time I paid taxes, rent, and dealt with every so-called emergency they tossed my way, my bank account looked more like I was flipping burgers at a drive-thru. Meanwhile, I watched my buddies buy their first homes, invest in stocks, take trips to Europe or Bali. And me? I stayed stuck in my cramped little apartment, eating microwave meals and telling myself I was building a future, while I was really just draining myself dry to prop up theirs. Then came the real gut punch. 2 years ago, my dad got fired, caught embezzling from his job. I didn't even find out until I'd already handed him close to 40 grand to get through a rough patch. "It's just temporary, son," he told me at the time, his voice soaked in fake humility. "Once I'm back on my feet, I'll pay you back every penny." But he never got back up. Instead, he and my mom just leaned in harder, like I was their personal ATM. My credit cards slowly became their go-to for every little emergency. They even started taking out loans in my name without telling me, signing paperwork, charming bank managers, whispering, "Don't worry, our son's good for it if anything goes sideways." And Madison? She played her part like she was born for it, the helpless little princess routine. Brand new iPhones, fancy spa weekends, yoga teacher training, you name it, charged to my accounts. With a sweet smile, she'd say, "I'll pay you back once my influencer career takes off. Just give it a little time, okay?" It was all smoke and mirrors. Every time I tried to set a boundary or say, "Hey, this isn't okay," they'd hit me with guilt and shame like it was their superpower. "Do you want your father to lose the house? How could you be so selfish when your sister's mental health depends on that retreat? After all we've done for you, you've changed. Money's turned you cold." Then came the final straw. Just last month, Mom asked me to co-sign a $15,000 business loan for Madison's boyfriend. Some clown who called himself an entrepreneur, even though he couldn't hold down a job longer than a season of TV. This time I said no. And my dad lost it. "You're tearing this family apart?" he screamed at me across the dinner table. "What kind of son are you?" Right on cue, my mom burst into tears. Madison stormed off, slamming her bedroom door like a teenager. She's 26. And I just sat there, completely still. I didn't say a word. I had nothing left to give. Later that night, while they were upstairs sleeping peacefully like nothing had happened, I checked my credit account. There was a $30,000 charge sitting there like a ticking bomb. They didn't even bother to ask me. They just took it, like they always did. I knew a storm was coming. I just didn't think it'd roll in this fast, or hit this hard. The morning after I shut everything down, my phone lit up like a Christmas tree. 27 missed calls. 15 voicemails. The texts wouldn't stop, hundreds of them. Some begging, others cursing me out, a few full of pure venom. By noon, they showed up. I pulled into the parking lot after work, and there they were, my parents and Madison, camped out in front of my building like a pack of angry wolves. Dad's face was bright red, practically purple. Mom had tears streaming down her cheek, though they felt more like theater than real grief. Madison stood there with her arms crossed, oozing entitlement. I barely had the car door closed when Dad charged over, finger in the air like a weapon. "What did you do?" he yelled, spit flying. "You've ruined us, you selfish little punk." But I didn't flinch this time. I looked him in the eye and said, "I protected myself." Something none of them had ever done for me. "The bank called this morning," he shouted. "The mortgage is frozen. The truck's gone. Your mom's credit cards are locked." "What gives you the right?" he screamed. I let out a bitter laugh. "The right?" I repeated. "You forged my name. Maxed out my credit cards. I spent years cleaning up your messes. Now you get to live in the aftermath." "We're family," my mom shrieked. Her voice cracked, but her eyes stayed ice cold. The same manipulative glare I'd grown up with. Family doesn't steal, I snapped back. Family doesn't lie. Family doesn't treat one of their own like a damn piggy bank. Madison finally jumped in, voice dripping with attitude. "Oh, come on," she scoffed. "You're being so dramatic. You make good money. You weren't even using most of that credit. We just needed a little help." "A little help?" I shouted, my voice echoing off the apartment walls. "You drained my savings. You torched my credit. You handed my future to yourselves like I owed you everything I ever worked for." I wasn't yelling out of anger anymore. I was just tired, bone-deep tired, and that's when I finally said it, out loud. Madison rolled her eyes like some spoiled teenager who'd just been told she couldn't have dessert. "Oh my God," she scoffed, "you act like you're some kind of saint." Then she spat it out, her favorite line. "You wouldn't even have that job if Dad hadn't pushed you. We gave you everything." I didn't yell. I didn't snap. I just let the words come out low and sharp. "No," I growled. "You didn't give me anything. You took everything. And I let you. But not anymore." My dad stepped closer, real close now, his face just inches from mine. His voice dropped to that cold, slow growl that used to terrify me as a kid. "You think you're better than us now?" he hissed. "Too good for your own family? You're nothing without us. You'll regret this." I looked him in the eye. "No," I said, calm and clear. "The only thing I regret is not cutting you off sooner." His face twisted up like he'd swallowed battery acid. The veins at his temples looked ready to pop. "You owe us," he barked. "We gave you life. And you spend it like it was yours to live." "That was it," I snapped. "I worked 2 jobs all through college while Madison flew to Bali on a whim," I shot back. "I lived in a box the size of a closet while you bought Dad his 3rd truck. Every single time I got ahead, you people found a new way to drag me back down." "Enough," my mom screamed, her voice sharp enough to crack glass. "We're your parents. You're supposed to take care of us." My voice turned to steel. "I'm not your retirement plan." I stared straight at her. "I'm not your bailout. And I'm damn sure not your slave." People were starting to notice now, neighbors peeking out from windows, doors opening just a crack. Curious faces catching the family meltdown unraveling in plain sight. And like clockwork, the final act started, the same old performance I'd seen for years. My mom dropped to her knees right there on the concrete, sobbing like a bad soap opera extra. "Please," she wailed, loud enough for the whole block. "If you walk away, we'll lose everything. The house. Your father's health. Madison will be homeless." I didn't even blink. "Then maybe Madison should get a job," I said flatly. "Maybe Dad should stop pretending he's rich. And maybe you should finally own the mess you made instead of tossing it in my lap every time you run out of excuses." "You heartless monster," Madison shrieked. "We're your family. We need you." Just shook my head. I really looked at them then, for the first time without filters, without guilt, without all the emotional tricks. "No," I said, slow and steady. "You don't need me. You need my money. You need my credit. You need someone to clean up after your endless screw-ups. But you never needed me. You never even saw me. You just saw a wallet with legs." That's when my dad lunged forward, completely unhinged. "We made you," he screamed. I didn't raise my voice. "No," I said quietly. "You broke me. But I put myself back together. And I didn't need any of you to do it." Then I delivered the last line. The one I'd been holding onto for years. "Don't ever call me again. Don't knock on my door. Don't text. Don't pretend this is family. Because as far as I'm concerned, it never was." Silence. All 3 of them just stood there, blinking, like I'd spoken some alien language. Like their whole world had glitched. And I walked right past them, up the steps, into my building. I didn't look back. They stayed in the parking lot, shocked, humiliated, completely powerless for the first time in their lives. And that night, for the first time in years, I actually slept. No guilt, no nightmares, just peace. I was free, or so I thought. I figured the worst was over, that the storm had already passed. But I was wrong. That parking lot fight? That wasn't the peak. That was just the thunder before the real collapse. Once I cut them off financially, it all fell apart, faster than I expected. Within 4 days, the mortgage company yanked my name off their paperwork. And since they hadn't paid a dime in months, the bank triggered a full default. By the end of the week, they got the foreclosure notice. 60 days. That was all they had. The same house they held over my head for years, the family home they said I owed them for, was about to hit the auction block. I didn't lift a finger. The system did it for me. Then the truck vanished. That $70,000 beast my dad worshipped like a second wife? It was gone before sunrise. The repo guy came early. Didn't even look him in the eye while my dad stood on the driveway, barefoot in a stained robe, screaming like he could scare the dead away. "You can't take my truck," he yelled, voice cracking. But yeah, they could. And they did. By the second week, Mom's voicemails shifted. The rage was gone, replaced by total panic. "We're going to lose everything," she sobbed in one. "Your father's blood pressure's through the roof. Madison has nowhere to go. What kind of son does this?" I stopped listening after the first few seconds. Deleted every single message. And then, like I knew she would, Madison showed up. She looked different. Thinner. Paler. The bags under her eyes weren't designer anymore, but they matched the knockoff purse she clutched like a lifeline. The smugness was gone. All that privilege, all that "I'm better than you" energy she used to walk around with, it had drained right out of her. But there was just desperation. "Please," she said, standing there on my doorstep, mascara streaked down her face like war paint after a battle she lost hard. "You can't just abandon us. You know how bad it's gotten." I didn't say a word. Not one. She kept going. "You know I was just doing what Mom and Dad told me," she cried. "I didn't mean for it to get this far." "But I'm your sister," she said, voice cracking. "Please, just for a little while." I looked at her for a long moment. And here's the part that surprised me most. I felt nothing. No pity. No guilt. Not even anger. I was just done. "I'm done, Madison," I said, flat and final. "If you still have a home, go there." She blinked, stunned. "You can't be serious," she whispered, her voice breaking again. "You're my brother." "No," I said, voice like iron. "I was your bank. And I'm closed." 15 minutes later, building security walked her out. She tried again. Texts, DMs, voicemails full of sobbing, screaming, bargaining. She even sent distant cousins to plead her case. "Just help them get back on their feet," they'd say. "They're still your family. You're being cruel." Cruel? You want to talk cruel? Cruel was emptying my savings behind my back and smiling to my face. Cruel was faking my signature on loan papers like I was just some idiot safety net. Cruel was laughing while I missed birthdays, missed vacations, skipped every good thing in life just to patch up the holes they kept punching in the bottom of the boat. Let them feel the consequences. Let them drown in the mess they built. By the end of the month, their whole perfect world was rubble. They moved into a dingy 2-bedroom apartment way across town. Far away from that shiny suburb they used to show off like a trophy. The eviction was public. Neighbors gossiped. Their friends? Gone. Dad lost whatever was left of his ego. The man who once barked orders like some neighborhood king now dragged a rusty toolbox to part-time handyman gigs, just to scrape together enough for rent. His health took a nosedive. Blood pressure shot up. He couldn't afford his meds anymore. Mom kept pretending for a while, posting old vacation photos, smiling fake smiles on Facebook, but the cracks showed fast. Debt collectors never stopped. Madison's influencer fantasy? Gone. No cash meant no curated life. Her followers left as fast as she lost her filters. She hopped from couch to couch, leeching off shallow friendships until nobody wanted her around if she couldn't pay for brunch or cover half the rent. One day, an old buddy of mine texted, "Hey, Madison's in bad shape, man," he said, uncomfortable even writing it. "She's basically homeless. Maybe you should?" "No," I replied, cutting him off. "I've done enough." Because that was the truth they never got. They thought I kept giving because I was weak. But I wasn't. I was strong enough to stop. And once I did, they collapsed, crushed under the weight of their own entitlement. Meanwhile, I finally started my own life. I bought a place. Nothing crazy, just a clean, quiet condo I could finally call mine. Fully paid. No strings. No leeches. The peace inside those walls? Indescribable. For the first time in over a decade, I wasn't living just to keep someone else afloat. I traveled. Really traveled. Not canceled trips or emergency flights. I saw Iceland, Italy, Japan. I stood under the northern lights, breathing in that sharp, frozen air, and for once, it didn't smell like stress or guilt. It smelled like freedom. I got into therapy. Started unpacking years of damage, manipulation, shame, financial servitude dressed up as love. One thing my therapist said stuck with me. You never had parents. You had leeches dressed as parents. She wasn't wrong. One message finally made it through. A text from Madison's ex. Dude, it read, I know everything now. They never deserved you. I'm sorry it took me so long to see it. I smiled. Not because I needed the validation. Not to feel superior. I smiled because, for the first time, I felt peace. I wasn't the villain. I was just free. And it's funny. Silence used to scare me. For years, silence meant the next storm was coming. A new crisis, a new favor, another guilt trip dressed as family. But silence means I can breathe. No calls, no yelling, no begging, no lies, no manipulation. Just peace. Real quiet, earn peace. Most nights, you'll find me out on the balcony. My place, my rules, my money, my peace. The city lights stretch out in front of me like a living painting. That skyline, it doesn't just glow. It reminds me that I made it, that I survived them. There's no more anger in me. That fire burned out a long time ago. What's left? Clarity. I used to think that my worth was tied to what I could give up for everyone else. That being loyal meant sacrificing yourself completely. That love looked like bleeding quietly while others took whatever they wanted. They called it family, but it wasn't love. It was business. A one-sided deal where I paid, and they always collected. The worst part? It wasn't the forged signatures. It wasn't the drained accounts. It was the lie. The one they whispered in my ear for years. Good sons take care of their family, no matter what. But no, good sons don't become hostages. Good sons don't become walking wallets. Good sons don't erase themselves for people who only know how to use. They thought cutting me off would break me. But the truth? Cutting them is what saved me. The last message I ever got from my mom is still sitting in my inbox. Unread. We didn't raise you to be this cold, she wrote. And maybe she's right. Because they didn't raise me at all. I raised myself. I carried the weight. I made the sacrifices. I held the line, for years, thinking that's what love meant. They built a whole kingdom on my back. And the second I stood up, the whole thing crumbled. But now I sleep. No debt collectors calling. No bank alerts in the middle of the night. No frantic texts about emergencies that were really just bad habits catching up with them. No more fake birthday dinners with phony smiles and hidden agendas. I wake up, I drink my coffee, and I feel nothing but calm. And you know what? I'm not bitter. I'm not angry. I'm free. People sometimes ask me if I have regrets. And I do. But not for walking away. Not for choosing myself. The only regret I carry is that I didn't do it sooner. Because the moment I finally put myself first was the moment I won.